Hello there. This video is on a motif I notice in major Hollywood films in which you find that main characters, well generally antagonists within movies, are usually named Frank. Not in it's popped up quite enough to where I've noticed it. I don't think anyone really else has noticed this, and it's important to bring up. So let's get to it. I think the reason why they have characters named Frank that are antagonists and that usually raise hell throughout all the movies that they're in is due to the fact that they're harking back and worshiping Jacob Frank right here. They're paying homage to Jacob Frank by doing this. Okay, and Jacob Frank was a Sabbatean. He's actually more properly, he's a part of, he started an offshoot of Sabbateanism. He learned about the Sabbateans, who were called the Dome in Turkey, when he went to Turkey as a salesman in the 18th century. He went there and he learned about Sabbateanism from the Dome, and the Dome are actually basically Muslim, or they were Jews that were into Sabbatean doctrines that were forced to go underground and convert to Islam, into Sufi Islam in particular, in order to hide what they were doing, because their beliefs were very radical, and the Sultan had outlawed Sabbatean doctrines and threatened to murder Sabbatai Zevi, who is the prophet and Messiah that they believe in. He was forced to Shabbatai Zevi was forced to basically convert to Islam or face death by the Sultan in the Ottoman Empire. So what Frank did, though, Jacob Frank went there as a salesman. He basically discovered all this, and he then brought it back over to Europe when he went back home. He's a native of Germany, so that's where most of his influence is held when he was alive. So one thing that the Dome and you basically call the offshoot that Jacob Frank formed the Frankists, basically, and you can call them collectively Sabbatean Frankists. So one thing that Jacob Frank did was he did the same thing that the Dome did, which was he converted. He kept this whole antithetical to biblical law teachings going, and this whole practice of converting to other religions and still keeping this heretical faith going. Like he went back to Europe, and him and his followers eventually all converted to Catholicism, whereas the Dome in Turkey converted to Islam, and they basically kept their beliefs underground, even though their beliefs are pretty much out in the open in our contemporary and also in the not too distant past. So anyway, that's what he did. Some of the important the salient things they did, let's say, would be that he's engaged in political intrigues, such as, flip through here, such as one thing he did was he tried to claim that to the officialdom at Offenbach, which is where his stronghold was in Germany, that his daughter Eva was the illegitimate daughter of Catherine the Great, and his plans were to basically infiltrate Greek Orthodoxy and or Russian Orthodoxy in that conspiratorial plot, and that failed. Basically, what him and his followers did was they would convert to other religions. In particular, mostly, some of them would keep their Jewish status, but they would convert to other religions, particularly Catholicism, and they would attempt to then undermine those religions by introducing heretical doctrines into them. One thing they engaged in is the Torah or one thing that they believed in is the Torah of Etzilut, which is a antithetical heretical Torah that basically is the exact opposite of what the Torah preaches. So they're allowed to engage in adultery, lies, maybe most likely murder, even though some of the documents I have don't show that they were too big on murder, but some of them did engage in things such as that. I have to find documents on that. I'm sure they did. And that's basically what they did, and they would also have orgies. What else did he do? He had a couple other things. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick look at him. One more little interesting note about what the Frankists did would be that the later Frankists were involved with the 1848 Communist Revolution. And this is documented in a book called, there's two books actually by Rabbi Marvin S. Antelman. They're To Eliminate the Opiate, Volume 1 and 2, and it's documented in here. So I'll read off part of it now. I'll paraphrase what he has in here. Are that we have other Frankists such as Moses Hess, who was a Mannheim Frankist in Mannheim, Germany. He was involved. He was an avid supporter of Karl Marx. Their goals are basically to implement the downfall of all religions and to bring about some sort of New World Order. This is sounding familiar now because that's kind of like, this is part of where the New World Order comes from, is from this gentleman here. He's one of them. And so another interesting thing that the Frankists did were that they took, they wanted something, a vehicle with which to perpetuate their beliefs. Their beliefs are, like I said, downfall of all religions, and or their major goals are to infiltrate religions and undermine them, and to bring them and to basically destroy them. And the other thing is to bring about like a revolution to end all religions, and or to bring about a new world order. So one thing that they grabbed a hold of were the Frankists and the Illuminati and who else? I think no, just the Frankists and the Illuminati are the big, and the Rothschilds too, of course, which are basically the Rothschilds are the Illuminati. They infiltrated Masonic lodges, in particular, in Vienna, the Asiatic Brethren Lodge there. They infiltrated that, and they infiltrated these lodges in order to. They didn't like Masonry. They just wanted something to. They want something that has a ritualistic practice to it that gets handed down generation after generation. So this way there's continuity in their revolution. There's also continuity in their heretical doctrines that go against biblical teachings. So another thing they did by raising hell is he also would take his family members, and he would basically whore out his daughters to elites within Germany in an attempt to gain influence with them. So this is what this man did. He was very nefarious. And so what the elite in Hollywood are doing is they're paying homage to him by naming all these characters Frank. And I'll show you a lot of examples of this in this video and in the next one, because I think I'm going to run out of time. So we'll start with the oldest example that I can find here. So I'll show you real quickly. We have, let's see here. Here we go. So we have Escape from Alcatraz here, a 1962 movie. Here we go. 1962 movie, Escape from Alcatraz, in which the main character is named Frank Morris. It's based off of Frank Morris, who was a criminal at Alcatraz who supposedly planned the escape. And if you take a look at this guy Frank is generally raising hell. He's trying to get out of prison. The thing is, it is important to note that this whole escape from Alcatraz was actually a fake story that was rigged by the elite just to get people into some ridiculous nonsense that they have. They always have. They love their fake stories, and this is one of them. So, because I mean, you can't. I learned this from another channel called Russian Vids, in which he states that it's impossible for this guy to get out of Alcatraz due to the fact that the guards would pretty much hear him burrowing out of his cell. Basically, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So there's also the 33 worked into here because they launched the tours off of Pier 33 in San Francisco, which is part of the hoax code, the 33, and you can find that on his channel. Not even though I could explain it here briefly, we'll just pass on that for now. So generally, the point is this guy Frank raises hell. He raises hell in the movie by escaping from prison. So we're going to go to another movie. Let's see here. So we have this movie. Oh, there we go. So we have the 1988 movie Scrooged, okay, starring Bill Murray. So this thing loads. We'll get this thing loading here. So in the 1988 movie Scrooge, Bill Murray plays Frank Cross. Here's another repeat of the name Frank again. And Frank throughout this movie does the same thing the Franks in all the other movies do, is that he raises hell, basically. That's all he does throughout most of the movie until he learns that, I shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. And he kind of has some sort of, repentance towards the end, and he tries to be good and stuff. But throughout the movie, he generally raises hell, so let that be known. One of the most prominent uses of the name Frank in raising hell is from Hellraiser. So the movie Hellraiser, and this is, of course, the Hellraiser series, we have the use of the name Frank. So where's the cast? Here we go. Here's Frank, played by Sean Chapman. Frank right here. Frank in this movie, he unlocks a cube, which opens up a portal to hell. And what they're doing in this movie is by referencing the cube, they're actually referencing heaven. The cube is the cube that lies above the firmament, which is actually heaven. It's stated in the Book of Revelation. So what they're doing is they're insulting heaven by saying that heaven opens hell up, because he uses the cube, the box, to open up a gate to hell, which is the exact opposite of what heaven is. This is why you find cube references throughout the world too, such as Santa Ana has a cube, Sydney, Australia, New York City, the cube reference seen in Chase Manhattan's logo. What they're doing is they're copying the cube that's above the firmament in heaven. Heaven is actually a cube. It's so that's basically what they're doing with this whole cube thing. So this guy Frank literally raises hell in this movie, and you can watch this movie, and many of you have probably seen this movie and know that that's what happens. So we'll go on to the next movie here. We have the Naked Gun movies here. Highlight of his name, which I'll show you, is Frank. Where are you, Frank? Here we go. Well, here's it listed right up here, Detective Frank Drebin. So here's Frank in the Naked Gun movies, and he generally raises hell throughout the whole movie, misbehaves quite a bit, very immoral. So that's basically why, once again, they like this name and they keep using it. It's one of their main motifs. So we'll move on here. Let's see which one comes next. Would be so we have the next movie would be Donnie Darko that mentions Frank. This was released in 2001. I'm trying to go in chronological order here, but it's kind of not entirely working out sometimes. So Frank is this demonic bunny rabbit. This is actually the voice actor who played Frank. Here's a listing that shows that his name's Frank right here. So Frank is the demonic bunny rabbit in this movie, and he generally guides Donnie Darko towards becoming insane. It's like a form of torture almost. Which is what some of the programming victims go through. He generally he tries to show him that, like, there's going to be this plane crash, and you guys probably, this is a spoiler, by the way, for all these movies. The Frank Demonic Bunny Rabbit basically tries to convince Donnie Darko, up here played by Jack Gyllenhaal, that there's going to be a plane crash into his house, and he's going to have to try to save him. But what happens is the plane crash never happens, and he ends up driving him insane, yada, yada, yada. So Frank really is playing a malicious role here, and he's, trying to misguide Donnie. So he generally raises hell.